Hi, welcome to the Shepherd's Rest Doc Talk. This is episode 98B.
I'm Cam and this is Julie.
Yes, this is the Haftarah discussion of this week's Torah portion. And again, if you're confused, Cam is the one wearing the necklace. That's how you can tell us apart. Since we look just alike.
Yes, I know it's confusing all the time.
All right, so this week's Haftarah portion is found in Zechariah 2:10 through 4:7. So it's kind of long.
Yeah.
I never have one this long.
Right.
Yes. There's so much here. I'm hoping that I can do it justice, but I've been all over the place, especially in Haggai, because if you read Haggai, Haggai goes right along with Zechariah because they're the two prophets at the time prophesying. This was a group that came back from Babylon. So you have the people that have returned after King Cyrus said, okay, you can go back and reestablish Jerusalem and rebuild the temple. And what I found was very interesting.
So is this after Nehemiah and Ezra? Because it wasn't until Nehemiah they built the wall. So, first they're sent back. First they're sent with Ezra to build the city, and then the temple city, and then second 19 years later they get the wall. So
this is before.
Okay.
Because he even talks about that in here. Because their concern was they want to build a wall first. Because they're unwalled and they're amongst enemies.
Right. They keep getting interrupted because they've got to go to battle.
Yes. And we're going to see that he even says that here. He says, don't worry about that. I don't want a wall because so many are coming back. So many are coming. A wall is just going to exclude too many people. And I will be in the midst of you, and I will be a wall of fire to you, is what it actually
there's
says.
A good wall.
Yes. So he's going to be the wall. But like this portion talks about, if you go to Haggai and you start looking, what they were doing is they were really concerned about building their own homes.
Okay.
And he says, is it okay for you to be in paneled houses and my house is in ruins? So, like I said, their thought process was, well, let's get all this done first, then we'll build the temple. And he's like, no. I will be your protection. You build my temple. Yeah. And of course that hooks with today because we're building the spiritual temple, right?
Yeah.
So that would be like us saying, well, we can't live in the land, so there's no reason for us to do any of Torah. Because we can't do anything and, we can't do sacrifices. So, Paul gives us those things because we're building a spiritual temple. So there's no reason to wait for the physical one to be there before we can begin doing what we can.
Right, yeah. Where our praises are the worship and the...
Right.
Yeah.
Right, it's the same concept. They didn't have that center of gravity that they needed because they don't have a king.
Right.
They don't have a priesthood set up. They have none of these things set up. So that leads me right into...
So they literally are the building blocks, just like we're building blocks. The stones, got you. They were the building blocks preparing for when those things came back. Gotcha.
Right. And even then, we're going to see how it's just a small nugget of the bigger picture.
Yeah.
All right, so first let's get a little bit of background of who Zechariah was.
Okay.
All right, so Zechariah was a priest he was kind of the patriarch of the priests when they came back from Babylon. Yes. And his prophecies in his entire book, they speak about a few things. They speak about Jerusalem, the temple, the priesthood, and the monarchy. So the kingly line, the kingship of Israel. And like I said earlier, those who came back from exile were in a dilemma because there was all of the redemption from Isaiah, Ezekiel, Jeremiah, everything they've heard talks about when I reestablish you in the land, I'll put a king over you from the Davidic line. You'll be a priest. There will be a priesthood, the Zadok family, the priest. That's what Ezekiel was saying. So here they are in a dilemma. They're under Persian control. Mm-hmm. So they're not a sovereignty.
Right.
And they're like, okay, they only gave us enough money. Now get this. Cyrus only gave them enough money to build the foundation for the temple. And I thought, oh my goodness. How is that? That is just like today.
Yes.
We're all coming out of the church, right? Out of Babylon. Cyrus became the king of Babylon in that area.
Right.
He allowed them to go back, but yet we only have enough information.
Hold on tightly to what you have.
Yes. for the foundation. And who's the foundation? Yeshua.
Yeah, right.
He's the foundation. Okay, I'm going to do like you did. I'm going to go kind of towards the end, and we'll work our way back because this fits right along with it. You see where he says in 4:6, when he's speaking to Zerubbabel, and it says, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, says the Lord of hosts. This is how the temple is going to be built. Yeah. And I thought that's exactly what we have now. Because as we perform the mitzvahs, as we do what we're supposed to do with Yeshua as the foundation, we are forming that spiritual temple. And that really is what he's talking about here. You know, because he also tells them in this that you are a symbol. So I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's go back and let's just go in order so this will start to make sense. Okay. So like I said, the two main catalysts you need for the whole restoration and redemption is you need the high priest, and you need a king. Now we have two great candidates here that are functioning somewhat in those roles. First you have Joshua, which Hebrew is Yeshua. He is functioning as the head of the priests at this time. Okay. Then you have Zerubbabel, and he was put by King Cyrus as governor, and he happens to be of the Davidic line. All right. So here's two great candidates. Yes.
I just thought, you know, it's interesting. When they first come into the land, Joshua is in the kingly role.
Oh, yes.
And now they're coming back into the land, and now he's in the priestly role.
Isn't that funny?
It is funny.
Hello. All right, so with those two players in mind, that is what this Torah portion deals with. It's two visions that Zechariah has. The first vision is of the priest Joshua with dirty clothes, and with Hasatan standing next to him and accusing him. He's standing next to him to be the adversary, and he's taken the dirty clothes away, and clean clothes are given to him by the messenger of the Lord. Hello. And then you see the vision of the menorah, the 7-branch menorah with the 2 olive branches flanked on each side. Yes. Making it like a Hanukkah. Right. All right. So the first vision is all of 3. The second vision is all of 4. Now I'm going to jump into 2, but we're going to jump a little back from this week's Torah portion. It starts in 2:10, but we're going back to 2:2 because I saw something really interesting here. Let's start in 2:1. It says, "And I lifted up my eyes and looked and saw a man with a measuring line in his hand. And I said, 'Where are you going?' And he said to me, 'To measure Jerusalem, to see what is its width and what is its length.'" And when I read this, I saw something totally different because we've seen so many things. Okay, we see in Ezekiel 40 where the man comes with a measuring stick to measure the whole temple, right? We see in Revelation you have someone measuring the temple. Now you see someone measuring all of Jerusalem, and I thought,
and Amos.
Okay.
Amos is also a plumb line measuring.
Yes, I mean there are several. There are so many in here about measuring.
Right.
So I thought, oh my goodness, it's like the opposite of Sodom and Gomorrah. Because with Sodom and Gomorrah, he was going to see if what was coming before him was true because he was going to destroy it. Well, here he is about to rebuild the temple and rebuild Jerusalem. Now he's going to measure it to see if it's worthy of being restored. It's the same type of thing. It's the same thing the Spirit is doing right now. This is going to be the catalyst to rebuilding the temple and establishing Yeshua in Israel, is the Holy Spirit going out and measuring to see if it's worthy for him to return.
It ready?
Is it ready? Same thing with John the Baptist.
So is the foundation sturdy enough to hold it?
Yes, because they did have the foundation.
Right, yeah.
You know, they had enough money to do that, but then they were stuck because you had the Samaritans giving word to Darius, look, to Cyrus.
Yeah.
They don't have a right to do this. You need to stop this, you know.
Right.
Then you have those in the surrounding area that were part of Persia that wrote to Darius, who was the next king, again, wanting to stop it. So what King Darius did was, and it took a couple of years to do this, because all of this happened in the second year of King Darius. You can see that in Haggai and in Zechariah. What he did was he went back to the archives to make sure that King Cyrus, that he really did say, you can establish a temple. When he did that, you can read that in 1 Chronicles, I believe, 1st or 2nd Chronicles. I'll have it right here. When I was researching, I came across it, but I don't remember what it is. You can see that he did come across it, and he said not only can they rebuild their temple, but all the provinces around Jerusalem must now give money from your treasury to help them, because Cyrus was so adamant about helping God's people.
Yeah,
I thought that was really cool.
Because the Lord wrote him in Isaiah 150 years before. Cyrus
it was about 100.
I mean, that's about 100. That's a really good.
Can you imagine?
When you're like, hey, look, you're in this book. What?
Well, I think that's the same kind of thing that happens to us when we read Isaiah 56. I remember when I read Isaiah 56 for the first time. I was like, wait, that's about
us.
me.
Yeah,
that's
we get to go
about
in.
me.
Right.
You know, and Cyrus is the same way, I'm sure. I mean, yes, it was his name specifically, King Cyrus, that was prophesied, but I still get excited just like that, which brings me back to my point about the provinces giving their treasuries to help rebuild. Isn't that what we're doing now? We're seeing the need to rebuild Israel, and we're doing what we can out of our, not only our spiritual treasuries, but even our earthly treasures given to, I don't want to call it a Messianic movement, but given to the movement that we see that really is establishing the old paths.
Yeah, I would say, really it could be Messianic in a bigger sense of the word. Messianic movement of those moving towards the coming of Messiah.
Right, yes. All right, now, I don't have time to go through this entire Torah portion, but I want you to see a few patterns that are set up here. So in 10, it says, "Sing and rejoice, O daughter of Zion, for look, I am coming and shall dwell in your midst, declares Yahweh." Now, this is not happening now, because we know from Ezekiel's visions that doesn't happen until the Messianic temple is established. Okay?
So it still hasn't happened.
Right. And it says, "And many nations shall be joined to Yahweh on that day. And they shall become my people, and I shall dwell in your midst, and you shall know that Yahweh of hosts has sent me to you." So here is a messenger speaking to Zechariah, and he's saying, now when all of this happens, that's when you're gonna realize that I was right. Right. Because up until even now, we're like, we're still not real sure how this is gonna
what it's gonna look like. We know it's gonna happen.
Right.
But what the final product's gonna look like, that's where we're like, we're not sure.
Right. And to them, this already happened. But when you really look at the larger scope of things, because the Jews were dispersed to Babylon, and some here, some there, and they did come back from the four corners or from the nations. Right. But this specifically says many nations will be joined to you. Right. That has not happened yet. But at the death, burial, and resurrection of Yeshua, spiritually that began. So the pattern I want you to see is, first of all, he's telling them, I need you to do your part in rebuilding this. But first he shows them the really big picture, right? Isn't that how the Lord does with us sometimes? Sometimes he gives us the really, really big picture, and then he says, okay, now start from here. And you see that just in everyday life and business now. I know my husband's a project manager, and every week or so, they have to have a meeting to show the bigger picture. So then everybody can keep their focus on the end goal. Because some of the projects they're working on aren't going to be finished until 2020. And it's very hard to keep your focus. But the point is, had they not been diligent in doing their part, we're not going to get to this. And that's what he's telling them is, look, you guys are a symbol. You're a symbol. You're a step towards that. And so when we start to feel like what we do isn't important, remember, we're just a step towards that. That if we're not diligent in doing what we're supposed to do, we're not going to, it could just be prolonging what's going to happen.
Well, and it kind of makes me think, I think we talked about this last week or last year, sometime before, if you listen to Doc Talks.
Sometime in the last 98 sessions.
Exactly. And that is the fact that, so Moshe did this. He had all the credit, per se, responsibility for it, but all these individuals were involved in making that happen. Same thing here. Messiah is responsible, but only with his body doing what it's supposed to do will those things be accomplished.
That's right.
And I love that. So true. If the part of the body who was stepping forward didn't take that step, that next leg couldn't swing to move forward.
That's right.
Exactly.
The hips have to work correctly, or you're walking like this. Hard because eventually we're going to be running. Right? So we've got to get all the body parts moving.
Yeah. Because we want to look like a gazelle when we run, not like an elephant.
All right, I want to talk about in 3:2. It talks about, this is the vision of Joshua, and he's standing face to face with the messenger of the Lord, which to me is Yeshua.
Yes.
Okay. In
the
this
word.
argument. Yes.
Actually, it just in the word.
Yes, the word, the reflection.
Yes.
Right, and he realizes his clothes are dirty.
Oh,
and
yeah, like James says, looking in the mirror. Yeah.
Yes, you know, that's how you get
what's happening.
The cheesecake off here.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we got to have the word as our mirror.
Right.
If we don't have that, then we're just going to, be tossed to and fro with every doctrine because, this one says this is okay, and this one says, let's stick with the word. All right, so he's got the word standing in front of him, and Hasatan is next to Joshua, and he's saying, he's being an adversary to him, and he's saying, look, he's standing here with dirty clothes. You know, I know, and you know, according to your own self, your own word, that he can't stand in your presence.
Right.
Yes.
So what if this is just midrashing, wouldn't it be interesting if Hasatan was like, look at him, he's just like me.
Ooh, I'm his master, not you.
Look at the dirty clothes. That's my dirt all over him.
That's my word all over him.
What?
He's dressed in these filthy clothes, and the messenger removes those clothes and puts clean clothes on him and says, I have done this. All right, so only by him can it be done. There's proof
Washing
right there.
The word, only by the word can it be done.
Yes. And Yeshua is the word. We're not trying to replace Yeshua with the word because they're the same.
He is the word. Living word.
Yes. Yeah. Right. So in 2, it says something very interesting. It says, and Yahweh said to Satan, Yahweh rebuke you, Satan. Yahweh, who has chosen Jerusalem, rebuke you. Is this not a brand plucked from the fire? All right. You know what that made me think of? What? It made me think of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in Babylon. Yeah. And then I thought, oh my gosh, that was like a foreshadowing of this, which is a foreshadowing of us, which is a foreshadowing of what's really to come.
Right.
All of it representing something. Everything we go through, everything, because they were put in the fire.
Right.
And they were plucked from the fire. Right?
Right.
So now we're talking about this group of people that has come back from Babylon. They've already been tried. Right. In the fire.
Right.
But now, look at where they're at. It's not easy.
Right. No.
They're having to carry the burden, like you said. They're having to share this burden. They don't know which way to turn. They don't know if they should be doing this, if they should not. Is God going to be with us? Is he not?
Right.
We don't know what to do. We're just kind of sitting here knowing that we've been plucked from the fire. We're ready to serve you, but we don't know what to do next.
Right.
I really thought of us today. We've been plucked out of that fire, right? But yet it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy for us. Right. And then I thought of the Church of Philadelphia, where it says when he returns, they're barely hanging on. Yeah. They're barely surviving. Right. So I don't think it's supposed to get easy.
Right. And even on the bigger picture of the plucked out of the fire, the very last judgment is fire.
Right.
So plucked out of that fire. And it's funny because Amos, obviously I've been reading Amos. Amos talks about the 2 sticks that were pulled out of fire. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I was like, like Ezekiel, the 2 sticks. I wonder if pulled out of fire survived. There's the remnant.
So they can
and then putting them together. Yeah.
Put together because
it's interesting.
Right. Those are the ones who are refined early per se.
Right. Yeah. Right.
They've
shown that they have a reason to be plucked out. You only take something precious out of a fire. Right. The rest is going to burn.
Right. And the thing is, we're all going to go through the fire at one point or another.
Yeah, we've got to be tried. Get the dregs out.
That's right. The dross. Now, moving on down to 8, we see, now listen, Joshua, the high priest, you and your companions who sit before you, for they are men of symbols. So there's that symbol again. This is all a symbol.
Right.
And then he says, for look, I am bringing forth my servant, the branch. So I think it's very interesting that he's talking about the high priest here, and then he says, I'm going to bring forth my servant, the branch. Right? Because every other time in Scripture that the branch is spoken of, it's as the king.
Right. It's always the Messiah.
Yes, but right here, he's talking about the priest. This is
who's also
clue.
Called Joshua.
Yes, Yeshua. And so, in other words, what he's saying here, hindsight, I'm sure at that time they're like, huh?
Yeah.
But
how's that going to happen?
Right.
As we say about Revelation, how's that going to happen?
Right. He is our heavenly priest. Right. One day we're all going to sit around and go, I just never saw that coming.
I know. We'd be like, that's what that looked like.
Of course. It says it right there.
Yeah.
How did we miss that?
Duh. Yeah.
And then it just goes on to show that it's futuristic, because in that day, declares Yahweh of hosts, you shall invite one another under the vine and under the fig tree. This is a very messianic, well-known messianic prophecy that everyone will sit under their own vine and under their own fig tree in the messianic age. All right, now something else I saw in 4 that's really kind of cool. All right, so we've got this whole vision of the priest, right? And it's just a vision. It just comes to him. He's awake. He's there. It comes. But in 4, when it starts to talk about the futuristic kingly line, it says, and the messenger who was speaking to me came back and woke me up as a man is awakened from sleep. So to me, this is like talking after the resurrection,
right?
You know? Yeah. So then he starts to give the vision of the menorah. Okay. The 7-branched menorah with the 2 olive trees on the side, right? And then in 2, he says, and he said to me, what do you see? So I said, I have looked and see a lampstand all of gold. And I'm like, hello, that menorah. It's the menorah, but it's the deity aspect. It's gold. You know, we're not talking about anything else but the deity aspect. To me, this is talking futuristic, something spiritual that we can't see, but yet they're going to represent it in the physical because they're seeing something of reality, really, because the spiritual really is the reality. We're just stuck
digital
in this
simulations.
Simulations. We're digital simulations.
Digital simulation.
Now we see in the rest of this Torah portion in chapter 4 that he's inquiring, what are these olive branches? You know, wants to know what it is. And of course the messenger's like, you don't know what this is? Yeah. Now eventually he tells them at the end of 4, but you'll have to go read that to find out. Because in our Torah portion it doesn't say.
No, it's not before that.
I'll go before it, but I don't go after it. No, I'm kidding. All right, but I do want to read in 6. He says, and he answered and said to me, this is the word of Yahweh to Zerubbabel. So he's not just given this to Zechariah. This is to give to Zerubbabel, who is the governor and who is an heir of the Davidic line. It says, not by might nor by power, but my spirit, says the Lord of hosts. So that's how he's going to build the temple. But he goes on to show him it's all this deity spiritual aspect. It's not, yes, you're going to build a temple, and yes, it's going to represent, but it's not the end goal. Right. You know, it's just like a step. Right. Like any project manager, like I was talking before, you've got the project, you have to constantly have everybody look at the big picture so they don't get discouraged, so they can understand the end goal. You know, and I think that we need that too. I think that it's good to read Revelation. It's good to read the end of Revelation. It's good for us to constantly study this so we don't lose focus on the end goal. And isn't it funny how Peter says in the end there's going to be scoffers, right? They say, oh, well, where is this coming? Because they're not in the Word studying. Right. Because when you're in the Word studying, you never lose focus of the end goal.
Right. So it always takes you back to where you are now. In that process, like I said, we've learned so much this year. It's a process.
It is a process, and it's going to continue to be a process until the very end. Right. But we have to do our part, or else we could be just prolonging, you know, what needs to come. Right. And it ends in 7, where he's just telling him, look, I understand that it looks like this huge mountain is before you, but in my eyes, it's nothing but a plain. It's just a plain. You are going to bring the capstone, and it's going to be with favor. And that's how it ends, because we always want to end on a positive note.
Right.
All right. So, like I said, you can go read the rest of it. It's such a blessing. It really is, because then you can find out what the 2 olive branches stand for.
I love Zechariah.
Oh, yeah, me too.
And to
Zechariah
see it go with definitely ends with the high note, you know.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And I love how you have Zechariah and Haggai prophesying the same types of things at the same time, almost like you've got 2 witnesses, right? Oh, now, in the end, what are we going to have? You're going to have 2 witnesses again. Now, that's how I think we're going to be, for certain, this is the route we need to take. And this is the progression we need to have, because we will have those 2 witnesses prodding us towards, you know, the end goal. Because that's exactly what these guys were doing, because until they started prophesying, no one knew what to do. Right. They were just in rubble. They didn't know what the right thing was. All right. Well, that's all I have for you this week. Hopefully.
I'm so happy you're back.
I know. Me too. I mean, Alaska was fun, but I missed the sunshine, and I missed the warm weather, and I missed my best friend,
Yay.
and all my other friends around here. And, yes. And my house and my dogs and, blah, blah, blah. Go on and on and on. Yeah, but it was a good 10 days. Yeah. So, anyway, we will see you next week with episode 99.
Woo,
we are almost there.
100.
Oh, what are we going to do? Start thinking. Start thinking. Yeah. All right. Well, we hope you have a fantastic week. Shalom.